Picture this scenario. You have a crystal clear path to the exact thing you've been claiming you want for months, maybe even years. You finally get the genuine attention of someone you highly value. You secure that critical, high-stakes interview. You are literally one step away from closing the deal of a lifetime. The stars have aligned. And then, completely out of nowhere, you blow the whole thing up. You send an incredibly stupid, out-of-touch message. You show up 20 minutes late with a half-baked excuse. You suddenly act completely detached and cold for absolutely no logical reason. Most men will look at the wreckage of that opportunity and call it bad luck. They'll complain to their friends about the circumstances. They will shrug their shoulders and say they simply lost interest at the last minute, or that the vibe just wasn't right. Let's be completely real with each other right now. That is a comforting, convenient illusion. You are not a victim of sudden apathy, and the universe is not conspiring against you. What you are actually doing is executing a highly precise subconscious strategy of self-destruction. You are holding the gun, and you are pulling the trigger on your own opportunity. Why on earth would a rational guy do this? It sounds insane, right? But it happens because your brain has rapidly calculated that failing on purpose on your own terms is actually much safer than trying your absolute best and risking genuine rejection. This, right here, is the ultimate invisible trap of the male ego. You are actively protecting a fragile, idealized image of yourself at the incredibly high cost of your actual, physical reality. Today, we are going to completely dismantle this illusion. We are going to look under the hood of your own mind and fix the engine. In the world of behavioral psychology, this exact mechanism has a name. It is known as self-handicapping. Think of it as a biological defense system designed entirely to protect your perceived social status. You see, evolution meticulously wired the human brain to monitor our place in the social hierarchy. Back in our ancient environments, living in small tribes, a sudden drop in your status didn't just mean a bruised ego. It often meant isolation, and isolation meant death. If you were to try your absolute hardest at a hunt or a challenge and still fail, your core value to the tribe was instantly put into question. Everyone witnessed your genuine inadequacy. Your modern brain still operates on this ancient hardware. It registers the possibility of pure, unfiltered rejection as a literal threat to your survival. To prevent this devastating emotional blow, your mind desperately creates a backdoor exit. It subtly engineers a scenario where failure is absolutely guaranteed, but, and here is the genius part, the blame can be easily shifted away from your core identity. Think about how this plays out. If you fail a test or bomb a pitch because you deliberately didn't prepare, your true potential remains untested. You can always tell yourself, well, if I had actually tried, I would have crushed it. If a relationship falls apart because you acted distant and unavailable, you can comfortably lie to yourself and say, you never really cared in the first place. You get to maintain this grand delusion of superiority. You trade your potential real-world success for a cheap psychological insurance policy. Let me be clear. This is not the behavior of a cold, rational, stoic mind. This is a profound, catastrophic collapse of your internal frame. A man who possesses a truly solid frame does not fear the judgment that comes with failure.
He fully accepts the risk of rejection because he knows his baseline value is secure, regardless of the outcome. When you self-handicap, you are letting pure, unadulterated fear dictate your physical actions. You are letting the ghost of rejection drive the car.
Let's geek out on the neurobiology of this behavior for a second, because understanding the mechanics takes away its power over you. Your brain essentially operates on an internal economy of energy and dopamine. Whenever you pursue a meaningful goal, your brain invests heavy chemical energy, and it rightfully expects a return on that investment. When you suddenly encounter the very real threat of rejection, your amygdala, that little almond-shaped alarm bell deep in your brain, fires a massive warning signal. It predicts a devastating loss of emotional energy. To prevent this crash, your brain scrambles for an immediate exit strategy. By actively sabotaging the event yourself, you essentially hijack your own dopamine system. It's like pulling the fire alarm during a test you didn't study for. You get a sudden, rushing wave of relief. This rapid drop in anxiety actually mimics the chemical feeling of a reward. Let that sink in. You are chemically rewarding your own brain for failing. This creates an incredibly toxic biological feedback loop. Without even realizing it, you are training your nervous system to seek out the warm, fuzzy comfort of surrender. Every single time you sabotage a good opportunity, you reinforce this neural pathway, making it thicker and faster. Over time, this literally rewires your baseline motivation. You slowly morph into a man who is neurologically terrified to try. You become literally addicted to the comfort of the preemptive strike. You convince yourself that you are the master of the situation because you are the one who pressed the self-destruct button. But you aren't in control at all.
You are a hostage to your own insecurity, playing a rigged game against yourself where the house always wins. So, let's look at how this actually plays out in modern day-to-day interactions. The first incredibly common symptom is ironic detachment. We all know a guy like this, or maybe we've been this guy. Many men adopt this carefully crafted persona of complete and utter indifference. They operate under the false belief that caring about anything is a glaring sign of weakness. In texting, dating, or even professional conversations, this looks like painfully delayed replies, overly sarcastic deflections, and zero emotional investment. You use lazy communication. You hit people with the classic half-hearted one-word responses. You do this because you genuinely think you are projecting high value and scarcity. You believe this makes you look like some untamable, mysterious James Bond character. In reality, anyone with an ounce of social intelligence sees right through it. You are projecting an intense, screaming fear of vulnerability. You refuse to show genuine interest because you are utterly terrified that the interest will not be reciprocated. You are using sarcasm and distance as a very fragile, transparent shield. A truly high-value man does not ever need to pretend he is bored to seem important. He allocates his attention deliberately and purposefully. If he wants something, he moves toward it with clear, undeniable intent. He does not play childish games with his own effort. He knows that his time on this earth is valuable, so he absolutely refuses to waste it playing a game of emotional hide-and-seek. This brings us to a huge misunderstanding in the self-improvement space: the concept of scarcity. Men read a few surface-level theories online. They hear that being overly available destroys attraction and value. And hey, that is absolutely true. But they take this golden rule and apply it completely backward.
Scarcity does not mean artificially withholding your presence from a genuinely good opportunity. Real scarcity means your time actually has weight because you are busy building a demanding, purposeful life. It means you absolutely do not tolerate disrespect, and it means you have the power to walk away the second the terms are bad. It does not mean you pretend to be swamped with important business when you are actually just sitting alone in your room, staring at your phone, sweating and counting down the minutes until it's strategically acceptable to reply. Fake scarcity is a transparent, low-level manipulation. People can feel the incongruence. They can sense the anxious vibration beneath your artificially cold facade. True walking away power comes from having a rich life that demands your attention. It does not come from playing a tactical game of delayed text messages. When you use self-handicapping to fake scarcity, you just look foolish. And worse, you alienate the high-quality people who actually value straightforward communication and inner strength. The second applied insight we need to talk about is the preemptive retreat. This is the nasty habit of magically creating physical or logistical barriers right before a critical, defining moment. You cancel plans at the absolute last minute. You manufacture sudden, dramatic scheduling conflicts. You arrive completely unprepared for a significant conversation, almost as a joke. You might even pick a completely pointless, explosive argument over nothing just to create immediate distance. By doing this, you are building a massive wall of plausible deniability. You are writing a highly convenient narrative for your ego to hide behind. You get to tell yourself that the connection or the deal failed because of bad timing, crazy circumstances, or the other person's unreasonable reaction, not because of your own inadequacy.
Let's call this what it is. It is a cowardly way to navigate the world. You are actively degrading your own character just to avoid a few moments of temporary discomfort. Understand this. Every single time you cancel out of fear, your self-respect takes a permanent, invisible hit. You are explicitly teaching your subconscious mind that you cannot handle pressure. You are broadcasting a signal to your own brain that you are weak. This leads us to the third insight, which is deeply understanding the vast difference between ego and dignity. Your ego is a whiny, demanding child. It demands to look invincible at all times. It demands a perfect, flawless track record, even if that entire record is built on lies, retreats, and fake scenarios. Dignity is an entirely different beast. Dignity requires the raw courage to stand firmly in reality, no matter how harsh that reality is. It means putting your true, unvarnished effort on the line for the world to judge. It means looking another person dead in the eye and stating your intentions clearly and unapologetically. When you do this, yes, you risk being told no. You risk facing pure, unfiltered rejection. But that exact risk is the only possible path to genuine respect, both from others and from yourself. When you sabotage yourself, you successfully protect your cheap ego, but you completely bankrupt your dignity. You become a man who is composed entirely of unused potential and elaborate excuses. The world does not reward hidden potential. The world couldn't care less about what you could have done if you really tried. The world rewards action, resilience, and the willingness to stand in the fire and get burned. High-value behavior is deeply rooted in accepting the very real possibility of defeat without flinching or running for the door. There is a very persistent, almost comical myth floating around modern self-improvement and Sigma circles right now. Young men are constantly told that to be respected, they must be entirely unbothered by everything in existence. They are taught to mimic the outward appearance of a stone statue. But they fatally confuse a cold, calculating mind with a dead, numb heart. They actually think that walking away from everything and everyone proves their ultimate dominance. This is completely, laughably false. True detachment is not apathy. It is outcome independence. Let me paint a picture and compare two contrasting approaches to the exact same high-stakes situation. A man without a solid internal frame meets someone he truly values, or lands an opportunity he desperately wants. He immediately feels the pressure mounting.
His chest tightens, so he starts pulling away to protect himself. He acts cold, sends deeply mixed signals, acts flaky, and eventually ghosts the interaction entirely. He sits back and tells himself he is a master of his emotions, a true Stoic. He is lying to his own reflection. He didn't master anything. He just sprinted away from the battlefield before the first shot was even fired. Now, look at a man with a strong, internalized frame. He recognizes the high value of the opportunity in front of him. He steps up. He communicates his interest clearly. He shows strong, unapologetic intent. If this man is met with a lack of interest or a flat-out rejection, he accepts it gracefully. He doesn't panic. He doesn't hurl bitter insults to protect his pride. He simply takes the hit, processes the data, and redirects his heavy energy elsewhere. He survives the rejection, and his dignity remains 100% intact. Why? Because he learned the absolute truth of the situation quickly and efficiently. He didn't need to ruin it first just to feel safe. He processes the negative outcome, calibrates his future approach, and keeps moving forward like a juggernaut. That, my friends, is what actual, terrifying power looks like.
So why is this deeply ingrained pattern of self-defeat so incredibly common today? Well, look at the environment we live in. We exist in a digital fishbowl of constant surveillance and infinite, maddening comparison. The modern landscape has created a hypersensitive awareness of our social status. Every single rejection feels like it's public. Every failure feels permanent, etched into the internet forever. You are relentlessly bombarded with curated images of flawless, effortless success from other men. You are deeply conditioned to believe that any misstep, any awkward moment, makes you entirely undesirable. This hyper-competitive, unnatural environment triggers a chronic state of scarcity in your brain. When you operate from chronic scarcity, you hold on to your ego like it is your very last resource on a dying planet. You become terrified of spending a single ounce of your social capital. You hoard your effort. You refuse to try because you deeply, fundamentally believe you cannot afford to lose even once. This is a miserable, suffocating way to exist. You are literally starving yourself of real human experience just to protect a fragile, digital age persona that doesn't even exist. You have to break this societal conditioning. A cold, rational mind doesn't fear rejection. It uses rejection as data. It is merely neutral feedback from the environment telling you how to adjust. It is not an indictment of your fundamental right to exist. The phrase, "I wasn't even trying," is the ultimate, depressing anthem of the defeated man. It is a pathetic comfort blanket. When you use this phrase, you think you are cleverly preserving your status. You think others will look at you and see your hidden, untapped brilliance. I promise you, they do not. They only see a man who completely lacks conviction. When you chronically withhold your effort, you actually atrophy your capacity for discipline. You literally forget how to pursue a goal with fire. You transform into a professional critic of your own life, sitting comfortably on the sidelines, harshly judging those who actually have the guts to enter the arena, try, and fail. You construct an elaborate, comfortable fantasy world in your head where you are the undefeated, undisputed champion. But never forget this cold truth. A champion of an imaginary game is still a loser in reality. So, how do we actually dismantle this destructive mechanism? You don't need extreme dramatic measures or a month-long retreat in the mountains. You need practical, consistent, daily calibration of your own mind. We are going to implement specific, actionable, safe practices. Think of these as internal boundaries
designed entirely to protect you from the sabotage of your own ego. Fair warning, they require strict discipline, not fleeting motivation. First, you must practice radical internal honesty right before you take any significant action. Whenever you feel that sudden, magnetic urge to withdraw, pause, stop what you are doing, and ask yourself one ruthless, uncomfortable question. Am I acting right now to actually win, or am I just acting to protect my image? You must be brutally honest with the answer. If you are drafting a text to cancel a meeting, ask yourself why. Are you genuinely, logistically busy, or are you just secretly afraid of the evaluation you might face? If you are acting distant with someone, ask yourself why. Are you truly, objectively analyzing the situation, or are you just hiding your intense interest behind a cool guy mask? This simple 5-second moment of pause physically breaks the automatic defense mechanism. It forces your highly logical prefrontal cortex to step in and observe your emotional fear. You step right outside of that toxic dopamine loop of fake safety. Awareness alone destroys the hidden power of the sabotage. Once you drag the fear out of the shadows and give it a name, it immediately loses its paralyzing grip on your decision-making process. Second, you need to completely replace vague intentions with a single, uncompromising standard of action. The self-sabotaging mind absolutely loves ambiguity. It thrives in the gray area of indecision, where excuses grow like weeds. You must eliminate this ambiguity completely. You have to define exactly what your effort looks like for a given situation before you even enter it. If you are going into a business negotiation, define your exact terms beforehand. If you are initiating an interaction, define your exact message. Commit to delivering that specific, predetermined standard of action, regardless of how anxious or doubtful you feel in the heat of the moment. By doing this, you remove the decision-making process from your panicking, emotional mind. You simply execute the playbook you already wrote. If it fails, it fails. But it will fail strictly on your exact terms, backed by your full, conscious, undeniable effort. Over time, you will learn to deeply respect your own word. You will build a rock-solid track record of actually showing up for yourself. This is how you build undeniable, bulletproof self-trust. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you must shift your primary focus away from external validation. Direct your heavy masculine energy entirely toward tangible, real-world skill acquisition. The desperate need to protect your ego almost always stems from a deep, underlying lack of true competence. When your entire self-worth is balanced precariously on how other people react to you, you are constantly living in danger. You must build a foundation of intrinsic value that no external rejection can ever touch. Pour your intense focus into your work, your physical discipline, your finances, and your strategic growth. When you know for a fact that you are actively building a formidable reality behind the scenes, a single social rejection completely loses its weight. It goes from feeling like a structural collapse to being a minor, forgettable inconvenience. You completely stop needing to engineer fake failures to protect yourself because you are far too busy building real, undeniable success. Your internal frame becomes deeply rooted in your daily, disciplined actions, not in the fleeting opinions of strangers. You have spent years treating yourself like your own worst enemy. You have meticulously laid invisible traps for your own ambitions. You have fiercely guarded your fragile ego while letting your actual, finite life wither away on the vine. This ends the moment you decide to stop running. The absolute strongest move a man can make is not pretending he does not care. Apathy is the weapon of the weak. It's the shield of the coward. The strongest move is shining a light on the hidden ways you engineer your own defeat and tearing them out by the root. It is standing tall in the absolute face of uncertainty. It is offering your genuine, 100% effort to the world and fully accepting whatever consequences come your way. You are no longer a victim of a fragile ego. You see the board clearly now. You understand the hidden mechanism. You can literally see the strings attached to your own fear. So the next time you feel that familiar urge to pull away, to send that careless, half-hearted message, or to cancel your plans at the last minute, recognize the trap. Do not let your ancient brain trick you into choosing the warm, pathetic comfort of failure. Step directly into the friction. Accept the risk. Hold your frame. What could you actually achieve in this lifetime if you simply stopped standing in your own way?